USA Warrior Stories is a not-for-profit organization designed to record, archive, and share videos of veteran stories, to help veterans make a connection with one another and to help us all better understand their sacrifices for our freedoms.
I grew up about 20 minutes to the west of here, at a place called East Patchogue. When I was 3 years old, I was over in England for my little brother being born, and they put me in a crackerjack suit, which is a sailor suit. So to me, the Navy was always something that I had an interest in. And then I watched U.S Navy, as I said, and sand pebbles and things like that. And to me, the call for the sea was there. I landed in the Philippines a year to the day I joined the Navy. I went from the USS Midway, which was home ported in Yokosuka, Japan. I did 8 years on her. I was in an A7 squadron, which is an attack aircraft. My main duty was fixing what they call the black boxes from the aircraft, the flight control, the navigation, all that stuff. I absolutely loved it. From then I went to an F4 squadron. Then I ended up in a A18 squadron. And then from there I went to an E2C squadron out of Norfolk, Virginia for my last 2 years before I retired. I did Saratoga, USS Saratoga's last cruise in 94, 95. And then I did the USS Enterprise as soon as they had finished refueling it. It's a nuclear ship. None of those three carriers are anywhere anymore except for the Midway, which is in San Diego. Well, the first thing we did in April 1975, I had just gotten on the ship. I was 19 years old, and we pulled out to do the evacuation of Saigon, which was an interesting endeavor. It started one morning. There was a CH-46 helicopter there, and then from then on, all hell broke loose. The helicopters were coming in like flies on dung. It was just amazing, and it was pretty wild. A lot of stuff got thrown over. A lot of the helicopters that did get thrown over did so because it wasn't because we didn't have enough room for them, but we couldn't get the rotors stopped in time for the next ones coming in. So we just pushed them over the side. Premier Key came on board from Saigon. They immediately threw his powdered milk over the side. Not sure what that was about. And we took over, I don't know how many, a couple of thousand folks maybe on board. And to look at all those folks that came out who left their home country with what they had on their back, it was pretty sad to see. When you first walk on board, you're amazed by the vastness. And you learn quickly how to get from your berthing area to the chow hall to your workspace. And you learn to do that very quickly. And then, when you have off time, you just start exploring the ship. And sometimes you get lost, and sometimes you end up where you're not supposed to end up. I didn't know anything of the history other than she was launched September 45, and it was an old boat. But we had 2 catapults, and we outflew a lot of other carriers. It's a dangerous environment. There's fuel everywhere. There's aircraft coming in at 150 knots, stopping in a couple of seconds. Aircraft launching off. Usually they launch successfully, sometimes not. They end up in the water. We lost a couple of pilots like that. We lost a number of aircrafts. We lost one on my last cruise out into the Mediterranean. It was an F-18 where they had what's called a cold catapult shot, which means there wasn't enough steam to get him airborne completely. And he went like that, and the guy punched out straight into the ocean. And it was not good. I made the most of all my tours to various different countries. I've been almost completely around the world. I preferred the Western Pacific and the Indian Ocean. It was places like Australia, Singapore, Thailand, Taiwan, Korea, Japan I loved absolutely. I tried to pick up pieces of language from any country I went to. Australia was a little bit different, g'day, but I learned some Thai and I learned some Japanese. I'm I was semi-fluent because I spent so much time there. Learned some Korean. You pick some up, and it's appreciated by the local peoples. Luckily I never went to France for that. But anyway, and there were times when I'm saying, I've had enough of this, but most of the times we're saying, hey, this is good. And the higher I went, the benefits of working longer hours came along with it. I figured it would be the other way around. No. So I was doing 18 hours a day instead when I finished. We had a saying when I made chief, it's the happiest day of my life. And it was. Because you're in a brotherhood, which is totally different from other services. And the transition from an E6 to an E7, from a first class to a chief, is quite the deal. And I finished out as a senior chief, so I only had one step more to go. If I had stayed more than 21, I would be what they call a master chief. But my kids were, had gotten married by that time, and the kids were getting older. I already missed both of the births. We were 75% of the time we were elsewhere. So you miss quite a lot. Fortunately, the wife did what she had to do. I mean, you miss a lot, first day at school and stuff like that. So it was time for me to leave, and so I did. I did 21 years, and the last thing I wanted to do when I got out was join another group, to be honest with you. Then after I was out for, 5 years or something like that, that longing for comradeship kicks back in. So I joined. I've been there 18 years now, going on 19. So it's great because you meet a whole bunch of folks that speak the same language as you do. And we talk about where we were and what we did when we were there. And we just have a hell of a good time, and we're all very good friends. A lot of folks, after they get out of the military, joining another organization is not high on their priority list until they've been out for a while, and then they really miss that comradeship that they had. I had gotten out of the Navy for a small stint, and nothing personal, but I said, nah, these civilians are all hosed up. So I went right back in, and I missed that camaraderie. We work together long hours, we go out together, we enjoy ourselves, and then we do it all over again. And we were such a high-paced organization back over on the Midway because we sailed so much, we flew so much, and you miss that. You do miss it. So I miss it now, which is why I joined the American Legion post. I'm also a member of this post. But it's hard to explain maybe, but you really, I guess speaking the same language, having a lot of the same experiences makes all the difference. I absolutely look back on my 21 years as A, I had a blast, B, I had an education that you would never get in any college. Anything to do with Navy, you always try and have fun, no matter what. I grew up watching McHale's Navy, and I said, that's what I want to do. And I tried my best to emulate those guys. I never got in trouble for it. Would I do it again? Hell yeah. Would they kick me out in today's Navy? Yep.